Hi everyone, you're watching the virtual Amicus and I'm Jay Lodha. So today's topic for discussion would be on building a successful practice before RERA Tribunal. And joining us today, we have with us a very special speaker. We are joined by Mr. Nilesh Gala. And just to give you all a brief introduction about our Amicus for today's session, Mr. Gala is currently Secretary of RERA Practitioners Welfare Association. He's an independent counsel who's specializing in real estate planning law, family law, intellectual property rights, legal consulting, property law, and has an independent practice before RERA and all other forums. So thank you so much there, sir, for taking out time from your busy schedule. And anything that you wish to say before we start with our session?
We can go ahead with our session.
All right, sir. So thank you so much there. And as the stage is set, the floor is all yours. Over to you.
Thank you, Jay. Thank you so much. And I thank the virtual Amicus to give this platform for the young budding lawyers. We are today here to give a brief background on how the young lawyers can develop their practice in RERA. So I'll just give a brief background of how RERA was set up. In 2017, this act is a very new act and it was enacted and which has came into force in 2017. And the Maharashtra RERA Authority was then constituted in the year 2017. Prior to this, there was earlier Maharashtra Ownership Flats Act, which was prevailing in Maharashtra. Now RERA has been adopted by states and the states were given powers to frame the rules. Maharashtra has a full-time authority which is functional and also has set up its various city-wise members which preside in other major cities like Pune and Nashik, and the head office is in Mumbai. And the appellate tribunal here is in Kalagoda, and the authority has two offices, one in BKC and Churchgate. The appellate tribunal consists of a retired High Court judge. The authority is consisting of one housing secretary who is presently a chairman of the RERA and two full-time members. And of course, there are adjudicating officers too. Now, coming back to why the act was enacted. So, RERA brings a more transparent way of any flat purchaser to invest or buy an apartment, plot, building, or any commercial property. Now, why I say so? Earlier regime in MOFA, there was no such parameter of registering a project. Now, in RERA, the project has to be registered and therefore they have a legal sanctity. Now, RERA, what it does is, in case of a dispute between an allottee and a developer, a promoter, there will be, in case of a conflict, there will be a legal battle, of course. And prior to that, a lawyer has to do due diligence while registering a project on behalf of a promoter. So there is a lot of scope for legal community as to the new lawyers to practice and develop their practice, especially for RERA. Now there are three different types of lawyers who practice in RERA. One, who do only chamber practice, do the registration part of the projects and updating their quarterly updates as per the circulars of RERA. They mostly register the projects with RERA, give their due diligence, give their title report, update their quarterly updates, and keep the promoter's project live on the RERA website, RERA website. The other lawyer which comes into picture is when there is a conflict between an allottee and a promoter, which goes to the court. Here we say RERA authority, where the young lawyers come into picture and they get a good scope to develop their practice for allottees or against allottees. Now, there have been cases where there have been delayed possession, where builders have taken time and again extensions, there have been delay without any reasons. There have been funds which are were taken for A project and diverted to the B project. In such scenarios, there have been complaints by allottees for delay, and therefore there have been a need of a good lawyer who can voice it up before RERA and take up these issues of allottees before the authority. Now, there have been judgments passed by authority granting refund interest on the basis of not only agreements but allotment letters or booking forms or even newspaper articles where promises were made of XYZ and those promises were not fulfilled. RERA have given good judgments protecting the rights of an allottees. At the same time, it also brings transparency, and promoters who are not fly-by-night and actual promoters or developers who want to construct and build a goodwill in the market of real estate. The lawyers advising these promoters to register this project in phase-wise manner, a single building which can be now registered in 2 phases, 3 phases, or if it's a big layout, wings can be separately registered. All this has to be advised by lawyers. Now, not only that, after the orders are passed by the authority, there is a stage called appellate tribunal. And the appeal court also is full-fledgedly functioning in Maharashtra. And I believe whichever states have adopted, I think all the states have now having a proper full-fledged appellate tribunal. And thereafter, the stage is second appeal, and which goes to the High Court, and thereafter, of course, the Supreme Court. So there are 4-layer stages. A lawyer who starts and initiates at the inception of registration of a project, to going to the RERA authority in case of dispute resolution, then going to the appellate tribunal, then going to the second appeal court, and thereafter the Supreme Court. So a lawyer who studies this subject thoroughly will be loaded with work, plus that he will be able to advise his lawyers in case of buying a flat in a project by looking at the RERA registration. These all aspects can be covered while practicing in real estate regulatory authority. Now, Jay, what's important here to know is that a lawyer who can read the planning authority's sanctions, which are uploaded with the RERA website, where it's mandatory for a promoter to upload sanctions. A buyer who is buying a flat for, say, X amount in Bombay, of course, Mumbai has been in a high demand and it's not very easy to buy a house. So a buyer also at the time of purchase can take advice from a lawyer to see whether the project has proper sanctions from local authorities by going on to the RERA website. Looking at the plans, a lawyer can, and the title certificate, a lawyer can advise that whether there is a loan, whether the sanctions are approved, the plans are approved by the planning authority, and the project is on a timeline. Even during that phase, a lawyer is required for purchase of an apartment, and many allottees or flat purchasers have started taking advice of lawyers for while buying the flat also. So I personally feel that lawyers practicing or hoping to develop their practice in real estate have a very good future, and of course, by time coming, there will be conflicts. There have been delay because of COVID. There have been a number of cases where the promoters have not met the deadline, and vice versa, where in COVID, the allottees have also not paid to the promoter because of their work being stalled. So the flat purchaser have not paid the installment. All these conflicts are resolved by the authority, the Real Estate Regulatory Authority. In Maharashtra, it is called RERA. And thereafter, the disputes are taken in appeal before the tribunal and second appeal. So this is the outlay of this act. Jay, you have any questions to pose?
Yes, sir. So first of all, thank you so much there, sir, for your valuable insights on this field, which is relatively new, and so is the legislation. So two quick questions. Number one, any internship that you would recommend in this area? Because unfortunately, since it's a new legislation and it is not taught in many law schools, it's not a part of the curriculum. So any internship that you would recommend, or any particular course, distance learning or classroom mode, that you would recommend to young law students or lawyers who are watching and who wish to build a field, build a practice in this field? Over to you.
Yeah, Jay, that's a very important question. And yes, it will be helpful for a lot of students and the lawyers who are wanting to actually pursue their career in this particular practice. So there are certain law schools which are giving not only specialized for the RERA related, but as far as real estate sector, they are giving these diploma courses which they have promoted. I think National Law School also has one. In Mumbai, I think KC Law College has started this curriculum. And of course, for internship, since there are not many who practice in this, as you rightly said. So the new lawyers or the interns who want to actually focus on real estate can apply through LinkedIn, through various modes like your platform, make a request to you, or there is our association called RERA Practitioners Association, where they can email that they are looking for internship. And of course, our association can help them to find internship, since not only lawyers, but CA and CS are also allowed to practice in RERA. And it's a merger of three professional streams where a chartered accountant is required to, since there is 70%, a promoter who receives money has to deposit in an escrow account. A chartered accountant certificate is mandatory to show that what is the accounts which are linked and the amount which is deposited and how it is utilized. CS at the same time has those compliances which needs to be done. So it's a mechanism of CA, CS and lawyers. And of course, it's a very good opportunity for any law student who wants to pursue, can apply through our association as well.
Yes, so now coming to our next question, sir. Any particular book or any literature that you wish to recommend for lawyers who are watching this? How does one approach, merely by going through the provisions of the act or by doing internship? Do you think it will suffice? Or, academically, how does one have a sound knowledge in this field?
Of course, nothing can beat is the practical approach, Jay. So the question which you put up is not, it's every student which faces this difficulty or a lawyer. Correct. So what we can do in this is suggest good text for them, that if they can go through. There is a very dear friend who has written a very good book on RERA. Bombay especially has a Taxman, which is a very good book, which covers all the circulars and latest judgments. And one Snow White publication has a very good commentary on it. And these two books is good enough. But of course, Joe, the practical part of it can be done only when you work somewhere and do your internship, and the drafts, the modules, the circulars, how to interpret. That's only when you do a practical internship.
And lastly, sir, one last question. I hope you have the time, sir, because we've already exceeded the given time frame. So there was an issue that had come up before the Honorable Supreme Court of India with respect to the remedy that can be availed by the buyer in terms of compensation, or in terms of if there's a fraud that is being played by the developer or the builder. And so does one invoke the provisions of Consumer Protection Act, or does one approach RERA because this is a specialized legislation, or can parallel remedies be taken up? What would be your advice to if in
So, as far as the latest judgment is concerned, there are two, three judgments Supreme Court has passed recently, and one such judgment is, I think, of Justice Rohinton Nariman, which beautifully words that a flat buyer can invoke parallelly consumer court, insolvency under before the NCLT, as well as go to RERA. So that kind of a wide approach has been given to a flat purchaser because of their uh, the relation between a developer and allottee, where a developer is at a position to make him sign in dotted lines. This is the words used in that judgment in Pioneer Housing. That's the landmark judgment. And Neel Kamal, of course, is the Bible and Gita and Quran to this act, where the developers had challenged this act and their validity before the High Court, Bombay High Court. And Neel Kamal matter, the High Court upheld the validity of RERA, constitutional validity.
Well, thank you so much there for this really very valuable and a very insightful session, a very important session and indeed, because most of the young lawyers that we see or come across or meet or bump into, they have this common query of who to approach and how to go about things. How does one build a practice? Uh, Appointment of a member or appointment of a chairperson is something that has been delayed for quite some time, and finally when you have a member, then how does one institute cases? So in this field, in such fields, obviously you need a mentor. So we couldn't have asked for a better session and a better mentor than words of wisdom coming in from you, sir. So we've all taken note of that, and our email is mentioned on the channel. So in case if any of the viewers who are watching this have any of the queries with respect to any fundamentals or concepts, or even guidance for that matter, in the field of RERA, or in the field, or with respect to building a practice, a successful practice, feel free to write to us. We'll be more than happy to forward the same to our Amicus for today's session, Nilesh sir. And you can even write to him directly, as sir had mentioned at the beginning of the session that there is an association the sir is heading. So feel free to write to them indirectly. And so thank you so much there, sir, once again. Anything that you wish to say before we wrap up our session?
Thank you, Jay. You're doing a fantastic job. The virtual Amicus is really helpful, and continue doing that for the students.
Yes, sir. We hopefully this will continue and this will remain forever. And we hope to have speakers like you coming on our channel, share your views, share your journeys, the lessons that you've learned, and impart knowledge, because it's ultimately a knowledge sharing platform. So thank you so much, sir. Once again, thank you. Big thank you to all the viewers. And stay tuned. Next episode is on its way. Stay home, stay safe. It's goodbye for now. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.